Welcome in, everybody. I'm Joey. So you're probably wondering, how'd you get yourself into this situation, dumbass? Well, let me show you. It all started on a partly cloudy day here at the Nurburgring, but that's not going to get my mood down. No, not one bit. A new Forza's out. I couldn't be happier. And I'm ready for a nice clean race. So here we are off the line in the Forza Touring Cars hopper, and this is my first race, and I chose the Volkswagen here, the GTI. Just taking a look at the stats alone on the Volkswagen, this thing is really decent for this hopper. The acceleration seems like it's just miles above every other car option, and we'll see that later. This thing just absolutely blisters everybody off the straightaways. But for now, we've got a nice little battle going on with the Civic, and coming out of the arena section, I'm looking for the cutback down the straightaway. We're going to go side by side, toe-to-toe, into the right-hander. I get a light touch to the backside, spin to the left, come back to the right, lose traction, and there you go. So this is just great. When I envision the perfect start to a race, this is it. Spinning and dropping a good bunch of positions. This is why I play this game. Still, all things considered, this is a better start than Mercedes had this weekend. I think George and Lewis would agree with that. So the sit rep is, damn, this sucks. And we find ourselves down in 8th place. We do get a good run onto the straight, and we've got a Veloster, I think that was, rejoining the track at an awkward angle and forcing the two of us GTIs over to the right side. Luckily, we got the run on the one GTI, get up in front of him, and then our backside gets fondled by another one of our GTI teammates. At this point, I'm just the Chris Hansen of Forza, identifying all these rammer perverts and basically doing nothing about it. But anyways, we're coming around the final turn now, and it looks like the two up front had a little coming together, and the Civic ahead is actually the same one that we got involved with back on lap 1. So hopefully we can use the GTI's acceleration to our advantage down the straight here and make quick work of him. Down into the braking zone, I completely missed my brake marker, and we're not going to talk about that. No, we're not talking about that. We can talk about how I didn't get a penalty for it, and yes, if you were wondering, I have paid off the race officials yet again. Their pockets have been lined, so don't expect too many penalties the rest of this race at least. But real talk, I do need to get used to adjusting my braking zones based on how much slipstream I've got. That would certainly help solve a few things. Now we're on a bit of a comeback here, up behind P3 in the Veloster, who's got themselves a 9/10 penalty, and back onto the straight where the GTI really comes into its own, flying right by the Veloster, making quick work of it, nice and easy, through the right-handed kink. Coming up to the chicane here on lap number 4, hoping that I can build that gap just big enough where I don't get dive bombed up the inside, and it looks like we've just about got it done through there pretty cleanly, and then that's where we're going to end up finishing the race. Nice P3 there to start things off in the GTI then. There are the lap times, setting some pretty consistent laps and making a nice little comeback, dropping one spot overall, but considering lap 1, I'd say that was a pretty decent race altogether. Alright, over to Hakone now. I believe this is the reverse variation of the track. I'm in the Vauxhall and had a pretty rough qualifying, to say the least, ending up in 14th off the start. The Vauxhall probably wasn't the greatest choice for the track, but we'll see what we can do. And around turn 1, we've already got a little bit of contact there, some collisions going on. No penalties given out, it doesn't look like, at least to the guys around my general area here. Although I do get an avoidable collision warning for my move up the inside. There it is right there, the warning up top. A couple cars ahead, finding their way back onto the track as we're gunning it down the straight, and this is where we'll see the disadvantage of the Vauxhall. All the cars ahead building a bit of a gap as we get to the end of the straight here, and now around the left-hander, it seems like just the entire grid has gone pretty wide, almost going into the back of the two cars ahead. Luckily, avoiding that, and we're going to go ahead and finish lap 1 in one piece. So let's try to stay on the positive side of things here. We are in 14th place, but there's a massive pack of dudes up front here that are primed for overtaking, and first place is only about 6.5 seconds ahead. Now around turn 2, we basically just become a domino set. One guy breaks and we all run into the guy in front of us, and then one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen happens. Look at that peel off The synchronous slide from those two was one of the coolest things I had ever seen. I had to do a little slow motion edit with some big old light beams. So grabbing a couple of free positions out of that and then basically just becoming a sandwich between these two guys. And down the straight we go for the second time. We know the Vauxhall is going to lose that battle, so fast forwarding to the beginning of lap 3, coming around turn 1 and then around turn 2 again. Getting on the power a little bit too early here, but avoiding any more contact with the Honda, but he's just going to come back with his butt buddy in a Subaru and spin his ass out. So that slowed me up quite a bit. I'm still stuck in 14th, getting a little frustrated here, and coming out onto the straightaway, I make a massive mistake, cut the corner, and get slapped across the face with 1.4 seconds.
You suck, you jackass!
And because I'm an MLG Pro esports legend, I did it again on the very next lap. Only getting 0.6 for that one though, so I'm not really sure what the penalty system's thought process was, but I guess they thought that one was slightly less egregious than the other one. But anyways, I tried to forget about my severe lack of skill and carry on, grabbing a couple of free positions from the guys that were moving a little slow on the straight there, making a pass on the Honda Civic that we had a couple of interactions with earlier in the race. And then on the final lap here, around the final turn, the Civic looking for a cutback. He's got about half a car length along my side, so I've got to give him the space there. It's a drag race to the line, and it looks like the Vauxhall is just about gonna keep it. That's gonna be an 11th place, and then I remembered, oh yeah, I suck and had a couple of penalties, so that drops me down into 12th, so it didn't really matter anyways. Things are looking up though. Qualified P2 at Laguna Seca, hopping back into the GTI, which I thought did pretty well for us in race number 1. So let's see if we can turn the tide here and get back on that podium. Right off the bat, it's looking pretty good. Getting the move done on turn 1, right around the outside of P1. Stealing first place right from him. That's what we needed, a nice start. Skipping the lap 2, coming up the hill. Mago thinking about a move and ultimately backing out of there. I live to fight another day. Further up the hill, coming up on the corkscrew now. Let's hope I don't totally screw this up and wind up with a massive penalty. Down into second gear, using up all of the curb available and keeping that momentum up. So that was incredibly pretty well done. This was not so well done. Making a stupid mistake on lap 3, turn 2, going wide, dipping a couple tires onto the sand and slowing the car up. I am going to get the run on Mago here, who's got himself 0.8 of a penalty now. Ultimately deciding against it because going for that move in the corkscrew just never seems to be like a good idea. Someone is going to come out of there with a nice little penalty to their name. And through Rainy Curve, we just settle back into our positions. It was only a matter of time, though, before I totally screw up the corkscrew. So here you go. Example A of me being an idiot, or I guess this is kind of like example B or C of the episode. There have been a few. There's me cutting the track. That's a 1.4 second penalty for me, which was really tough because Mago being the only one with the penalty meant that as long as I stayed within 0.8 of him, I would have had first place in the bag. That is not so much the case anymore. Now I've really got to push it these last couple of laps and try to get ahead by, what is that, 0.7 now. That's the difference in our penalties. He's been driving that Honda real quick. It's not going to be easy. Let's see if we can get it done here. It looks like the rest of the grid is falling behind a bit. 7 seconds back to third. So as long as we don't have any mega catastrophes, we should have first and second locked up. Around the tricky left-hander, taking it safe and sound, but Mago is going to get a much better exit. He's got the run into the corkscrew. There he is on the screen now. He's going to show some massive balls into the corkscrew, staying along the inside. A little bit of contact on my rear end, managing to stabilize the car, not losing it completely, keeping first place so far. And around Rainy, we can finally start to breathe a little bit again. The luck is starting to fall my way a little bit too. It looks like second place must have dipped a couple of tires into the sand, and he lost a ton of time around that right-hander, up to about 3.5 seconds, and in the end, it was a first place. So we get to have our nice podium celebration and our shoey as well. But if this was Qatar, you cannot drink, which we learned from the Formula 1 race this weekend with possibly the most cringy post-race celebration of all time with champagne that didn't fizz. RIP that race. This guy in the next race apparently was level 926, so good on him. And this was practice. Some random invisible car appeared, which I smashed the shit out of. And then this guy decided to go for a savage drift in the rain. And this was the start of the race, which was from a replay camera. And I had no control over my car as far as steering goes, but I could control the accelerator and the brake. So I paused it, came back, that didn't do anything, and then just watched my car slowly drift off into the Suzuka fog. Until ultimately I decided, screw this, I'm out of here. I do wish I was able to steer the car and then drive it around kind of like it was an RC race, but Forza had some other plans for me. So I waited for another Suzuka event to open back up, and this time opting for the Ford Focus ST. And apparently everyone else except for this guy on my right side went for the GTI. Here's a messy turn 1 for you. The GTI on my left turns in far too early. There was nowhere for me to go. And then some other guy comes along, kicks my teeth in, and spins me like a damn yo-yo. Another absolutely perfect start to the race. I couldn't imagine it going any better. Falling down to 21st out of 21 players. So I guess we'll just do a from the back challenge, and it's not going to take long to get a few overtakes as this guy has decided to evolve into a lawnmower. A couple more guys rejoining the track. That was the best one. If you're ever going to rejoin a track, that's how you do it. You make sure to sideswipe somebody that's using the same car as you. That's how you do it right there. You're not teammates. You are mortal enemies. On lap 3, more shenanigans ensues. The other guy in the Ford Focus decided to go defensive. I tried to go around the outside, didn't see the Volkswagen behind, and then this guy just goes flying into the sand as well. RIP, I know how it feels. And speaking of RIP, well, there's a track cut, and there's a 1.2 second penalty. So it's safe to say it's been a bit of a long race, but Forza, it always seems like they're there to cheer me up. Here's a couple of guys turning into lawnmowers as well. That guy in the wall just ate the brunt of it, serving himself up a hearty portion of tyros for breakfast. And we're not done. The Ford Focus over here, who, by the way, so elegantly rejoined the track earlier in the race, well, he clearly thought he was playing Dirt Rally, and so did this guy. I wasn't counting, but I think that was 4 or 5 spots picked up from a bunch of landscapers, so I will take it. That's just about the best finish I think I could have gotten considering all that's gone on this race. And then at the end, I get possibly the most ironic achievement of all time. Safety star. 5 consecutive races with an S safety rating after possibly the most dirty race I've had so far. We'll see if we can play nice here at Nurburgring to finish off the video. Choosing the Veloster in this one. Possibly the best sounding car of the group. Not the fastest, but it's got that raspy growl that just sounds so good. So into turn 1, and that's definitely not what you want to see. That's how you know some stupid shit's about to go down. And what do you know? We all get knuckle sandwiched into each other by this guy over here who's not going to receive a penalty for it. And I can't really say much because I basically did the same exact thing the last time I was at Nurburgring. So I guess I can understand it. And who knows, he might have got pushed from behind. Probably wasn't even his fault. So coming out of the stadium section now, we're going to see a little bit of Forza glue coming back. A little throwback there to Forza Motorsport 7, getting stuck on this guy coming around the corner. Coming into the hairpin, I'm going to get pushed up the inside of P8 here. And it kind of helps me out, and I can take advantage of the space that opened up on the inside there, braking late into the left-hander, trying to get around the outside of the VW, and it looks like it's gonna stick. Skipping to lap 2, we've got another VW that's having some trouble controlling the car off into the sand for a little beach vacation. A little later on that lap, coming around the final corner in 7th place, closing the gap on this Ford Focus ST up in front, named Crack Sally. So clearly a big fan of cocaine, I guess. Maybe it makes her drive faster. Couldn't tell you, but I could definitely use some if that's the case. This VW showing off that insane acceleration it's got down the straight here. into the braking zone. It looks like the guy from behind is about 5/10 back, half a second, but that's not stopping him from going for a massive lunge up the middle. And if we take a look at the penalty board here, he's already got about 5 seconds on it. His safety rating's definitely going to be taking a hit this race, and there's got to be a max penalty you can get before you're kicked out of the race. He's probably not too close to it. I would imagine that's close to like 10 seconds or so, but if anyone's hit that limit, please let me know. I'd love to know what it is. I think the max penalty I've gotten so far was 2.5. That was my highest. Maybe 3, but yeah, definitely let me know if you've gotten kicked out of a race. I want to know what that limit is. Might come in handy someday. Unfortunately, I've let our penalty-ridden friend get right back on by us here, which is incredibly annoying. We'll just have to start from the beginning here and try to get right back on by him. He takes a rather awkward line into the right-hander and down the straight. That VW, again, the acceleration off the charts. I'm in the slipstream and it's pulling away. Fast forwarding down the rest of the straight and through the chicane on the last turn. Our penalty friend here has decided to hit this guy wide and get himself over the 5-second threshold. He might be gunning for that cap, but now I'm realizing this guy's on my ass now, and we're going into the hairpin turn off the straight. This could never end well, and well, I get a tap from behind. I go wide. And once I'm through the corner, I have a look behind me, and it looks like he's pretty much at a standstill, so I think that puts him away for the rest of the race. No more worrying about him. That brings us to lap 5, the final lap of the race. I've caught up to 4th place here, who's definitely dealing with some tire wear issues. That is the big thing with the Volkswagen, is the acceleration is off the charts, but what I found is the tire wear is really tough to manage, especially coming out of the corners when you can spin the tires a ton. My tires aren't doing great at this point either, but I can tell that I've definitely got an advantage. Coming out of the chicane, he goes very wide, dipping a couple of those tires onto the grass, slowing them down. I've got the inside for the final turn, around the carousel, onto the straight. I am ahead, up into 4th place. He's in the GTI, all that acceleration. I'm still pretty worried about that, but I'm about 4/10 ahead now, and he's got a second worth of penalties. We're going to get the job done. That's 4th place, and that'll be the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed. It definitely wasn't the cleanest group of races I've ever posted, but hopefully enjoyable to watch nonetheless. And before I go, I did want to say, if you guys have suggestions for cars you want me to use, drop those in the comments. I had a long list of cars that you guys had for me back on Forza 7, and now that the whole multiplayer setup has changed, I can't really use them. So drop some cars that you guys have been using and that you enjoy down there, and I'll give them a drive in some future videos. So thanks again, guys, for watching. Do all the stuff the YouTubers tell you to do at the ends of videos, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, bye, everybody.